today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast Thursday live stream, we are going to talk about a few different things. Okay, Danny's already laughing at me. It's already like 2 seconds in.
Sound like Sylvester. Like, today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast.
Yeah, no. As you can tell, I'm not 100%, but I'm going to try.
Yeah, send them love.
Yep. And maybe some cough medicine. But, so, today, in This Week in Satire, we're going to discuss how the Daily Wire plans to release a Black Panther movie starring Ben Shapiro. Facts and logic to destroy Killmonger.
Love it.
Yep. In our Rants of the Week segment, we are going to discuss translucent hate.
Ugh.
What does it mean?
Worst kind of hate.
Who's responsible for this? It's always Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh. The theocratic fascist that we all adore. And then, in a bit of a change to our strategy, we're just going to do a bigger segment at the end called The Myth of Both Sides. All of that and more on the Shrewd Dudes podcast. Okay, we are back for another Thursday live stream edition. For those who are watching, joining us for the first time, we are going to be live. We are live on Facebook and we are live on Twitch. So if you have any questions, send them there. Danny will be monitoring Facebook and I'll be monitoring Twitch. Keep in mind that we can't always answer right away. So try not to leave as soon as you answer, as soon as you send them.
Phone, so I'm ready.
Oh, you're ready. Yeah, I know.
Ready.
When people send me messages on Twitch, I've had people send me messages on Twitch in the middle of the live stream, and then 40 seconds later, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm addressing your question." And then it's like they're gone, and I'm like,
"Yeah." People are quick. They got like that instant
instant gratification. BS. Yeah. Grow some balls. Learn responsibility. Clean the room.
Gratification. We need, man.
Exactly. I'm gonna pull a Jordan Peterson. Clean your room.
Yeah, you got to be the king of the incels.
Exactly, king of the incels and king of the sickness. Apparently,
did you see that new Freedom Tunes thing where they did Jordan Peterson?
Oh yeah,
that's like an actual. If he
was actually an incel, yes, it was great.
If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it. It's really funny. You're gonna make it, man. You're gonna make it.
I hope so.
All right, so today's gonna be good though. I'm looking forward to this show. We got some big segments that I'm actually looking forward to talking about. But Stephen is literally limping into the finish line here.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. What's going on with you? Well, today I left work early because I was literally limping around work. Yeah. Because last night I had a fever of like nearly 40.
Jeez.
And then this morning it's just like, "Why are you at work?" And I'm like, "Because you need me. Because you're short-staffed." And it's just like,
you need me. Really?
And then lunch is like, "Do you want to go home?" And I'm like, "Yes, I want to go home." So left at lunch, had like a 3-hour nap, and doing slightly better, but still not 100%. So power through, power to the people. Yay.
You got this. I love when you said power through. You're like, power through. You could barely lift your fist.
Oh, I know. I'm just like, "Ah."
You can do it, man. I believe.
I'm trying.
I believe.
I'm bloody trying.
He's got this.
But with that said, Danny, has anything interesting happened to you the past couple days?
Got paid today, which is always good. And I'm hoping Thursdays? The end of the month. Or middle of the month and end of the month. I get paid bi-monthly, so that means that if I could get enough money this paycheck and with a private job next week, I might be able to do the final repair to my car, and my car will be beautiful.
Yeah.
And totally up to snuff. Honestly, I want my car to completely die on me on the highway. That would suck. But other than that, it's good.
Yeah, I've had some interesting issues with my car.
Yeah.
Like, basically right now I have to keep it above like a quarter tank, because if it goes below a quarter tank, for some reason it thinks that there's no gas in it. And so it just dies.
Ugh.
I like rounded a corner, like after I placed the fuel pump on Monday, I'm driving around, testing it out, and I make a corner, and then it's like, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? Why are you dead? And then I had to like give it gas to start it up again, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? So, yeah, still got work to do. Still got to figure things out. But
you'll get that.
Yeah. I've been doing all this stuff myself, so yay.
He's excited.
Zip ties. Saving the day over and over again. But with that being said, let's move on to this week in satire so we can laugh away my sickness, hopefully. But probably not.
Okay. Well, here's a good place to do your Ben Shapiro impression.
Ben Shapiro impression while sick.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna make this happen, gang.
Okay. Daily Wire announces they are making their own Black Panther. I said Back Panther. Back Panther.
Okay, would you like me to do it? I can do it if you like.
I can do it. Starring Ben Shapiro. Daily Wire has announced that in response to Disney's continued race swapping in movies, that they will now be returning the favor and making their own race swap Disney movies. They're now officially making their own version of Black Panther starring Ben Shapiro. Wakanda forever, gang. Said Ben Shapiro in his new role as King T'Challa. Let's say, hypothetically, speaking of course, that if a man, indeed, could become a panther who is black, as well as lawfully decided king of Wakanda, then essentially would be me, folks. It's really not that hard. The Daily Wire explained that if it's now okay and doesn't matter that Ariel and the Little Mermaid is black, then it shouldn't be any different for a white man to be Black Panther. According to sources, the movie will feature other race swaps as well. For the villain Killmonger, formerly played by Michael B. Jordan, will be now played by Daily Wire host Michael J. Knowles.
Nicely done. Yeah.
I'm not particularly amused by these persistent and pervasive attacks from this alleged Killmonger and this continued attempt to undermine my throne and kingdom. Okay, gang? Continued Ben Shapiro as Black Panther. How'd this dolt even get into Wakanda? Much less, why should we suffer to listen to what he has to say? You would require significantly better, much more sophisticated villains to fit me. That's why you should use code PANTHER, that's PANTHER, today with ZipRecruiter.com, and then maybe you might hire someone who could actually challenge my throne.
that made me laugh right there.
I thought that
anybody watch this show, that's what they do.
Oh, it's all marketing. Yep.
It is. It's pretty funny.
I love that. Oh, like the Freedom Tunes consistently goes after that.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
I don't know if you ever watched like when Ben Shapiro was. He seamlessly wove, like they were making fun of him for, and as they were making fun of him for that, he was responding, and he actually seamlessly made a pitch for something, and it was so good. I was like, man, this guy's getting good at that.
Yeah.
It was really good.
So the film has been met with heavy criticism and backlash, but this has not stopped the Daily Wire team from moving forward. They promised that for every race swap diversity hire in Hollywood, they will now greenlight 2 more Black Panther sequels starring Ben. At publishing time, the Daily Wire announced that they were responding to Hollywood gender swaps, remaking The Little Mermaid, starring their CEO Jeremy Boring as Ariel. Also, if you haven't seen this little video, it is great.
Fun?
The Californians adjust to new life in Texas. It is a fantastic little video.
It was hilarious.
She, her, he, him. What's your pronouns? I don't use pronouns. They're a microaggression. We're so sorry. No, it's no big deal. And it's just like, what are your pronouns? I don't know, but my favorite pronouns are you. I don't get it. Exactly.
I love how, like, when they take off their mask, the girl puts one on her head.
Oh, yeah, one on the head and one down to the chin.
I was like, nice way to show it off.
Yeah. And then, of course, the guns.
Yeah.
We're so scared of guns. There's so much violence and crime and where we come from. It's like, why isn't there any violence and crime here? Because everyone has guns. It's just like, I'm so scared. I can't do this anymore.
Should put a link in the description afterwards. But it's a really great, like, again, like one of my favorite shows, like for comedy, is Freedom Tunes. And Seamus, today he made a video going after leftist memes, and he was pointing out, rightly so, that like they don't know how to make a joke. They literally have no idea how to make not only jokes but how to make logical, coherent points. They just they're in such an echo chamber. They can't. So yeah, like definitely recommend, like, the Babylon Bee, Freedom Tunes, so many other places. Like the other place I want to check out is what was that? Like Tim Pool is coming up with some kind of a culture show or something.
Oh,
What's it called?
Cast
Uh,
Castle.
yeah, Cast Castle.
It's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
okay,
I have
yeah,
only
Cast
watched a
Castle.
couple videos.
Hmm.
One of the best so far that they've done was like a big nerdy reference.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, otherwise known as MTG, plays MTG, which is Magic the
That's so cool.
Gathering.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was like, okay,
That's
this is
awesome.
funny. And then it had like it wasn't Luke, it was Ian, and Ian's like
Yes.
training to beat Marjorie Taylor, and
Yes.
she just demolishes him.
Oh, and then there was like the one with Jack Posobiec, who basically shows up and he
Yeah.
has like all the secret documents at like Mar-a-Lago, and the secret documents are like something ridiculous, like the the secret like dirt that Trump has on like the FBI or something silly like that. Yeah, the left.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, the left used to be known for comedies,
Yeah.
SNL, and so many shows like
Not anymore.
Living Color. They used to be like the at the head of the comedy game, but they're not now. They can't make jokes because they only accept things that are commentary that is for the message, and so like you can't be countercultural.
Yeah.
And so most of the counterculture stuff right now is on the right. I don't know if you guys agree. I think that's the way I'm seeing it. The more
Oh
I
yeah.
see it
Well, like there was a
becoming
post
more
that I
like
saw the other day,
that.
and it was like countercultural in the '90s, and it was like a bunch of like really spiky hair, blue and pink haired individuals with like leather jackets,
Yeah.
and then it was like counterculture in 2020, and it's like a family praying in church, and it's like, yeah, it's true.
It's true. Even like the bands that used to be really popular in the 90s,
Mm-hmm.
like Rage Against the Machine, Green Day, all these other bands like that used to be big, even Offspring.
Mm-hmm.
They've all basically
They've all
become
gone woke.
pro-establishment.
Yep.
And a lot of people
Well,
are
of
pissed
course,
at
like the big
it.
one that we've heard of recently would be
Hmm.
the Offspring with their drummer Pete Parada,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
he got fired by the Offspring, and then he got signed by Tim Pool
Yeah. Yes, you played in
to
his
do his
video.
song. And it was funny because I was showing Tate this, and Tate's like, Tim Pool has a record label? I'm like, yep.
Yep.
And it's like, does he produce music? I'm like, he sings. And he's like, he sings?
He's actually a
And
decent
so I was
singer
showing
too.
him the video, and he's like, these videos are awesome.
Yeah. And I think I don't know if it's Zuby or if it's
Mm-hmm.
Eric July, one of those two, is making a comic book.
Yep.
And he's already like they're already selling like ridiculous amounts. So right now, like here's the main thing you have to remember, like because obviously this Babylon B article is pointing out something that like everyone's observing, which is that the right are the ones being creative and the ones providing content that's worth watching. The left is not. I mean, did you know the Emmys were on like recently, like yesterday? I think it was, or 2 days ago.
Yes, I did know, but only because of the Daily Wire.
Yeah, and nobody watched the Emmys because the Emmys are just not fun, and nobody enjoys them basically patting themselves in the back and celebrating things that general people don't like. And so, yeah, this is kind of like the cultural movement right now, is that the right is the countercultural, and so that's exciting, and I think that should be encouraging for a lot of people who get really frustrated watching, like the left basically owning, all the institutions, but the right now has a lot of the momentum, which is amazing, and that's something I definitely want to I definitely want to encourage people that the culture right now, because people are so mad about how Hollywood, how the media, how all these cultural institutions are creating content that is not enjoyable and it's not funny and people are checking out. That right now there's a lot of like right wing creators that are creating great content, and because there's a vacuum right now, it's great, and we're looking forward to seeing what comes from that. So, but all that together, that leads us into what is this week's rant of the week, which is basically how the left can't create good content, and so they're using politics to try to push it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Stephen, whenever you're ready, give us into the rant of the week.
Yep.
Red alert.
Okay, so we're going to start off with this video from The Quartering, which is just a quick clip, a couple clips from Family Guy, which has been modified for the Little Mermaid sketches.
It's really well done.
Are you kidding? I can be very persuasive. That's how I used to lure wayward sailors to their deaths with my siren song.
People who are listening, it's basically like putting like parts of Matt Walsh's tweets on screen.
Excuse me, ma'am. No porn at the bar.
Oh, it's okay. I'm translucent.
Oh, I had no idea. Do whatever you want all the time.
That's right. Join.
I'm translucent.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's totally acceptable.
So, Matt Walsh fishes in humorless media matters with joke about Little Mermaid casting. So Matt Walsh is, of course, trending on Twitter again, for convincing hapless media matters that he's deeply concerned about the rights of translucent individuals being represented in Disney's new live-action Little Mermaid. The saga began when Media Matters journalist Jason Campbell shared a clip from The Walsh Show featuring the podcaster complaining that it's unscientific to cast a black actress as Ariel in the new movie. From a scientific...
Can you actually go to the actual tweet? Like, it's right there when it's shared. So I listened to the whole monologue because he's show with this monologue, but this is from the question from the comment section and where he shared it. So if you're looking for this, it's in the comment section part, and it's probably about halfway, Stephen, so you can actually put the sound on. About halfway
and
through.
it doesn't matter as long as the actor is good. If we could all agree on that, then I'd be on board. And as I said, that's basically what it was for many years, what it was back in the 90s. But what I cannot abide by is the double standard thing where we say, well, the casting in casting matters only for certain races and not for others. No, we're not doing that. Also, by the way, with The Little Mermaid, can we also just mention that just from a scientific perspective, okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have someone with darker skin who lives deep in the ocean. I mean, if anything, not only should The Little Mermaid be pale, she should actually be translucent. If you look at deep sea creatures, they're like translucent. They have no kind of pigmentation whatsoever. And they're just like these horrifying, they look like skeletons floating around in the ocean. That's what The Little Mermaid should look like. She should be totally pale and skeletal, where you can see her skull through her face. And that would actually be a version of Little Mermaid that I would watch.
Well, like there was a clip from Tim Pool, and he was like, there should be Little Mermaid edits where like she's, what was it, Philip? Yeah, I think it was Philip. And Philip falls and she's about to rescue him, and then she just eats him. And it's like, whoa, what the heck happened there?
Well, I don't know if you remember like Mermaids, the Family Guy thing at the beginning. That's actually what.
Oh yeah, that's like they're not
work.
sirens.
No.
So like sirens are of course very different. Sirens have wings, and sirens will call out. And the myth is that you had to put things in your ears or tie yourself to the mast of ships so that you would not be lured in by their siren alluring sounds and then travel on the boat towards the rocks. Mermaids were more of, they would still attract them, but they wouldn't have a song. It was more like, ooh, there's a pretty woman in the water, I'm going to look towards it, and then they'd fall in. Actually, a good rendition of that would be
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter does a decent job. Also, I think it's like the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, I never saw that one. But
yeah, the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean has like mermaids where they're like dragging them underneath and drowning them.
Yeah, but the whole fiasco here is the idea that obviously they turned Ariel into that they race swapped Ariel for a black actress. So basically, they took a white character and turned it black. And of course, if you listen to like Matt Walsh's like logic, it all makes sense. It's a complete double standard, obviously on purpose. The idea is that it's totally and completely inappropriate for a white actor to take a black role. And the example that he used was James Franco, who I guess was given the role of playing Fidel Castro in the movie.
Yeah.
But they're like, nope, that's unacceptable because he's a white guy. He can't play a colored character or something like that. But then the double standard comes in when suddenly you get a black character or black actor playing a white character, and it's totally
Mm-hmm.
and that is what people are mad about. And obviously, the studios are not dumb; they're doing this on purpose. We'll talk a little later about why they're doing it. But here's what's going on. Like this, the story is really interesting because anybody who listens to Matt Walsh regularly, you know that he uses something called deadpan humor.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, he says things that are absurd on purpose because it's funny. And that's how he makes jokes. But most people don't see it. They don't understand what he's like, and so they think he's being serious, which is pretty funny actually. So go into the stories, dude.
Yep. Okay, continuing on with this story. The saga began. No, I already did that part. From a scientific perspective.
The funny thing is, he actually called it. During his monologue, he actually said, "Watch, they're gonna call me racist and me nuts," and it's almost like it was almost like on cue. It was crazy.
Well, because anyone, of course, according to this article, which is it's true, anyone accustomed to Matt Walsh's deadpan humor immediately recognized the comment as a joke. However, Media Matter, the tax-exempt liberal organization whose mission it is to attack conservative news sites, and other outlets took it as truth. They've been reaching out to the host for comment on what has become a parody campaign for the rights of translucent skinned individuals. I said Ariel should be played by someone with translucent skin like a real deep sea fish, and thousands of leftists took me seriously and are calling me racist because of it. I'm actually being accused of harboring racial favoritism for translucent people. I love it. This is great. So when asked for a comment, he said that he's long been an advocate for the rights of translucent people. Start giving these casting opportunities to this marginalized community. Translucent rights are human rights. Please include this entire statement in your report.
They actually reached out to him for a genuine comment.
Yeah.
That's how crazy they got. It was so stupid.
Oh, Michael Knowles. I, for one, consider it homophobic, transphobic, and misogynistic that Jason Campbell would question the scientific perspective of a beloved LGBTQ children's author and gender studies scholar such as Matt Walsh. Ben Shapiro, I'm sure Matt Walsh was absolutely serious when he suggested the only scientifically accurate Little Mermaid would be a translucent skeletal gill-possessed being. You nailed him.
So good.
Absolutely disgusted by all this translucent phobia.
It was pretty great.
Other major articles like Newsweek, which is this one. So this one, it's just like, oh my gosh, Matt Walsh slammed for saying Black Little Mermaid isn't scientific, because it's not. They've been met with widespread condemnation. Oh no.
Everyone agrees.
The casting of a non-Caucasian actress in the role of Ariel has caused a huge reaction online, with many delighted, but the trailer has also been spammed with dislikes on YouTube. Spammed.
You can tell this is left-wing source because they're trying to paint the narrative that they're all victims. Oh, they're doing nothing wrong, and these terrible are picking on these poor black actresses.
Yep.
And all this kind of garbage.
And of course, there has been positive reaction, but you watch these videos or this video of these girls reacting, and you can tell that these parents groomed these kids into reacting this way. It's super sad.
Well, they pretty much what do you call it? They set them up.
Yeah, they set them up, and they're like, "Isn't it a terrible thing that there are no black mermaids?"
Of course, you see a little girl just eyes going open. She's like, "Oh, she's black like me."
You want to go see that?
Yes.
She's black. I know, right?
Yeah, you know what this is? So those videos are a perfect example of indoctrination, because like the message that is being sold to black people all across the country, all across America, is that, oh my goodness, white people are out to get
we
you.
are.
You guys are like, victims. And the big one that they're trying to say is like, every TV show, it's all white actors and all that, so we're not being represented. The whole idea is representation. Remember, the whole idea behind CRT, behind Black Lives Matter, their whole mindset, their whole worldview is that you that like we're victims of historical injustice. And so we need to solve injustice with more injustice. We need to like steal what is actually like white content and transform it into black content. And so many TV shows are doing this right now. So many shows are trying to like stoke that idea that we need to retake the culture and force these like black, and you'll notice it's primarily black. It's not Asians into like, they're not trying to put Asians in there. They're not trying to put Italians in there. And they're not like, I don't know, like Brazilians in there. It's all black people.
Yep.
And so it's a one-way street. And it's very obvious that there's a complete massive double standard, and they don't care, which is what we talked about a lot, that they don't care about the double standard. They're like, well, we're going to do what we want, and who cares what you think? And then when you disagree, or even if you give this movie any kind of legitimate criticism, they instantly like come out with the magic card, which is the race card, like, oh, you're a racist, how dare you? And that is really shown that the fact that like this is not popular is shown by the actual the amount of dislikes on the YouTube video. So like Disney put this movie or the trailer onto YouTube. And one of the best ways to know whether or not like the public likes it is with the dislike button, which they try to disable. But a lot of YouTube content creators have realized there's a plugin that you can use to reveal the actual dislike amounts, and that's how they got the numbers. So yeah, it's 1.5 million dislikes, which is massive, like ginormous. Right, Steven? What do you think?
No, like this is saying that it's only okay for this to go in one direction is, well, like it's even kind of silly to say it's hypocritical because they don't care. They've stopped caring whether it's hypocritical when they evaluate race. Like we're going to talk about another story coming in our news you may have missed, where there's a bunch of black kids kicking a white kid, and some of the kicks are to the head and could permanently injure this kid. And they're like, well, we can't, like, this isn't clearly not an issue of race. This is just children that were raised improperly. It's like, well, we don't know. But if it was white kids doing it to a black kid, you bet you would say it's about race.
Yeah. And this is part of the cultural takeover that these leftists. By the way, Stephen and I talked about this, but like there's a movie that's come out this week that I actually would recommend everyone watch. It's a movie called Uncle Tom 2, and it goes into huge detail about how basically the left, like all these Marxist people who want to have ulterior motives, they're basically using the black community. They're using them as pawns to accomplish what they want. And that movie goes into the big detail. I'm desperately wanting to go. I want to see it, but this is what's going on. They're using, they're basically weaponizing racism.
Yep.
In order to create division, in order to basically against whites, and to create all this chaos. Now, the you can tell that none of this is organic. That this has all become so, like just complete fake outrage by the actual incident that happened, whole fiasco that was going on, and that one was shown on the Daily Mail.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Daily Mail basically has a story that what happened was somebody. There's a lot of technology out there, AI technology, and somebody was actually able to take the AI technology and all that, and they basically were able to create a copy of the actress, which is Halle, and create an artificial version of what Ariel would look like the original Ariel, if she was a live action version of that.
Yep.
Now, the actual video is amazing, but the response is pretty incredible.
Yep. So, an AI scientist has been slammed by social media users after he edited the trailer for The Little Mermaid and replaced actress Halle with a white woman. The Twitter users, whose account is now suspended, shared his work with a side-by-side of Halle as Ariel and the Altered Mermaid. He claimed he's fixed the trailer and added that he would be able to change the entire film once it's released. The alteration comes after the official trailer was released and caused YouTube to disable the dislike counter. So, from this post, credits to the memer. He fixed The Little Mermaid and turned the woke actor into a ginger white girl. Said he can fix the whole movie. So this is the normal trailer, and this is the new video. This is the new screenshot. And even though it looks weird because it's done by AI, but it's still, I like it better.
When I saw, you could actually go on, but you actually watch it and you're like, this is actually really well done. Like, you're like, wow, this is like incredible how it basically did completely change the character, and it actually does look like what Ariel looked like if she was live action. So now the problem is this is like the ultimate insult and slap in the face to people who are who are race baiters, because this is what they've been trained. Most of the people who are big and democratic, echo chambers and all that, they have learned to basically always be outraged, to always be offended and all that. And so they reacted like crazy to this. And of course, all of the major places like YouTube and Facebook and all these places, they've already banned. They banned the original account that posted this. They also banned the creator, the one who created the AI for this. And they've already banned a lot of accounts that tried to share this. So you can tell, this is basically the left basically saying, you will accept our version or what we want to do and like it. There's no dissent allowed. It's pretty crazy, actually, because I can look at this and be like, that's actually pretty good. And I would not be offended if there's a redheaded actress and they turned it into a black actor as reverse. I'd be like, that's pretty impressive. I've seen, I don't know if you've seen Disney characters, cartoon characters, where they actually change them for what they would look like if they were different races, and that actually works. So they just can't do that. But here's the interesting thing. All of this is odd because for the most part, you see this as a regular, everyday person, and you're like, what's the big deal? Why do they have to change characters into obviously they're not stupid. They know Ariel is originally a white girl and she's redhead, and it's almost like this is almost like a middle finger to people who really care about the character, and they know people are gonna react. They know people are gonna get pissed, and yet they still do it. And not only when they double down when they do it, and they have all these media journalists and all these publications will go out and be like, oh my gosh, these racists and all that kind of stuff. But if this was a one-time thing, you'd be like, that's really, but this is not a one-time thing. This is a pattern. You see this with Star Wars. They did this with Star Wars was huge with Rey and all that. They played defense and they call anyone Star Wars Return, was not Return of the Jedi, the Last Jedi. Yeah, the Last Jedi. They basically accused anyone who didn't like that of being Ghostbusters. Of course, everyone's sexist if you don't like Ghostbusters. They did this with Obi-Wan. the Disney Channel character. Oh, you didn't like Moses
Moses Ingram.
Ingram? Oh, you're clearly racist.
You're
and
clearly
you're sexist.
racist instead of her character is just really poorly written.
Yeah, and this has been done over and over and over. Right now, we're in the middle of the Amazon Rings of Power, and that is where the big thing is. But it's all the same. So what is going on? I actually didn't understand it until one of my favorite film critics, a guy named the Critical Drinker, he actually put it into words what they're doing, and then when you hear his explanation, it actually makes sense.
Yeah,
it's not an accident. It's not a bug. It's totally on purpose, and there's a reason why they're doing it, and it's called fan baiting. He's going to go into what it actually is.
Yeah.
As fan baiting. The OP described it thusly. Fan baiting is a form of marketing used by producers, film studios, and actors with the intent of exciting artificial controversy, garnering publicity, and explaining away the negative reviews of a new and often highly anticipated product. It's something a lot of us in the world of film criticism have suspected for some time now, and it neatly explains a lot of the seemingly baffling decisions that drive modern movie production. Ever wondered why studios, directors, and actors make such a point of hyping up the diversity of the film's cast rather than the film itself? Ever wondered why it's become common practice to race and gender swap popular legacy characters rather than create interesting new ones that are purpose-built? Ever wondered why the release of any major production is almost always accompanied by a storm of shill media articles endlessly prattling on about how important the latest piece of generic corporate trash is for whatever social political cause happens to be popular right now, and dismissing any dissenting voices as toxic, hateful bigots? Well, wonder no longer, dear viewer, because basically it all comes down to fan baiting. And since it's all been brought into very sharp focus by the controversy swirling around Rings of Power over the past few months, I figured this might be an interesting topic for us to explore together. So strap in, because the drinker's taking you on another installment of Why Modern Movies Suck. It all began in the year of our Lord 2016.
So he goes into all the examples of how they do this and when they do this. But what do you think about this idea, Stephen?
Well, it's certainly true. You can try and remake movies. Like I don't really have an issue with trying to remake a movie.
Sure.
To kind of bring it up to spec if it was made a long time ago and it's like, oh, okay, we're just improving the visuals and like bringing a modern score in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, maybe change up the story mildly, but to have shot for shot remakes and then the only thing you're going to change is the character's gender, the character's race, because all you're trying to do is wokeify. Like we were watching that not the Babylon Bee, we were talking about the Freedom Tunes sketch last week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, will it piss off the fans enough? And it's like, yeah, that's kind of what they're going for, because they're trying to stir up controversy. Like I think back to the Miss Marvel, the Captain Marvel movies, or the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, this is not really, they're like, oh, everybody who hates this movie they're just hating it because they're sexist. And it's like, well, no, because this is supposed to be a superhero movie, and the superhero in the movie is a villain.
Yeah.
Because she's literally attacking people for feminism.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing, of course, is happening with She-Hulk, which I've been following, and it's like, it's getting worse. It's getting worse, and it's all about pushing this woke agenda.
Yeah.
And like, if She-Hulk had been made back in 2012, it probably would have been watchable. But nowadays, it's like, oh, haha, we're gonna make jokes about feminism and how men are so sexist and pig-like, and it's like, ugh, shut up.
Clever. Well, the one thing I don't know if you've noticed that the quality of movies, TV shows, and a lot of these other things that are in like even the last couple of years have been pretty bad. Like, think about the last year, the previous year that we've just lived through. The only movie I can really think of that was like totally worth watching in theaters was Top Gun Maverick. That's it. That's the only movie I can really think. I'm like, man, I'm glad I saw that in theaters. I think I saw like Thor: Love and Thunder in theaters. Totally not worth it.
Yeah, it was kind of
good.
mediocre.
What's his name? Doctor Strange. That was mediocre.
Yeah,
like
was
super
okay.
mediocre. Then you have like like Jurassic World, the third one.
Yep, still
That was like
it.
very mediocre. It was not bad. It was not. So like I'm finding that Hollywood's getting worse,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think what's going on is that they are on a mission now. It's aggressive narrative pushing. It's a blitz. It's a blitz of messaging and narrative propaganda, and they're doing it in children's programming because we've seen how they're constantly pushing it. Peppa Pig is pushing it.
Yep.
Arthur is pushing it. All these TV shows that used to be like safe for children, and movies are pushing these agendas, and they know they're unpopular. So how do they get away with these unpopular messages, unpopular things? They basically like do fan baiting, and you'll know it's fan baiting because not only do they expect a reaction, but when it comes, they fan the flames. They immediately go, they attack, and like accuse everyone involved or everyone who's a real fan of them. And they demonize them and turn them into like the bad guys. And as a result, what do you get? It's like nobody really wins. The movies get worse, TV shows get worse, the fans get pissed off, and they basically jaded. And so ultimately, you don't actually create something better; you just create something worse. It's a cheap ploy, and ultimately, it makes everyone miserable. Doesn't actually end up creating anything good. So I think the days of Hollywood producing like solid classics for ages, I think those days are gone. We're just we might have a couple of like maybe some production studios and some actors that are still have integrity. Like believe it or not, Tom Cruise is the only one really decent movies. And maybe like James Cameron, because he's going to do the Avatar ones. We'll see how those. But I don't know. I don't think we're going to see much good. So I think Little Mermaid is basically the sign of. And sadly, the times are creating really crap content. Right?
Yep.
All right, Steven.
Definitely
so that's
crap
all we got to say
content.
about that.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, he's got more. He's hiding in there.
I'm not. Like, the funny thing is, of course, now I'm coughing, but I'm not yawning. The coughing is keeping me from yawning because I'm dying inside. So, now we're going to move on to the news you may have missed. Talk about the news that you may have missed. So, from Reuters, end of COVID pandemic is in sight, WHO chief. The world has never been in a better position to end the COVID-19 pandemic. The head of the World Health Organization said on Wednesday his most optimistic outlook yet in the years-long health crisis, which has killed over 6 million people. I don't believe that for a second.
Not even close.
We are not there yet, but the end is in sight, he told reporters at a virtual press conference. That was the most upbeat assessment from the UN agency since it declared an international emergency on January 2020 and started describing COVID-19 as a pandemic 3 months later.
Yep.
Of course, it emerged in China, blah, 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 blah. And this is a complete lie. The rollout of vaccines, therapies, proper therapies, like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, have helped.
No, according to him, it would be vaccines and
I know.
Approved therapies, like the Pfizer
remdesivir,
drug, the Merck drug.
Yep.
And
the drugs which make a lot of money, which gets funneled to the WHO.
And remdesivir is probably responsible for a crap ton of deaths by itself. So.
Yep, remdesivir is pretty nasty.
But
so, this is the end of COVID. It was, what was it, in sight by summer 2020? And they're like, oh my gosh, now we need to take it so much more seriously. It's like, no, we don't. It's like, we've been saying this for months, we've been saying this for years. You just operate like Sweden did. Which, it's like the only thing which we would ever advocate, operating like Sweden.
Yeah, I'd say operate like Sweden or operate like Florida.
Yep.
Those are the two standout places, states, I'd say, in the world that actually did it right. So, yeah, so it's good news. It means that, at least it means
the pressure and stupidity will be reduced.
Yeah. I mean, in Canada, I don't know, because our idiot prime minister believes that, like he knows better than every. He's like, I know better. We need to keep people locked up, and we can't fly. Why? Because it's science. I'm like, you can't even spell science. My goodness. But all right, so let's move on to this story. So Lindsey Graham proposes new national abortion restrictions bill. So Senator Lindsey Graham introduced a bill on Tuesday that would ban abortion nationally after 15 weeks. So this legislation would be very similar to like the con stuff in other countries. And here's us. We will introduce legislation to get America in a position at the federal level. I think it's fairly consistent with the rest of the world, Graham said on Tuesday. The legislation includes exceptions, are the most common ones, like rape, incest, physical health of the mother. And he says, if we take back the House and Senate, I can assure you we'll have a vote on the bill, Graham added. So the article goes on, but basically here's now you can make an argument that like, okay, bill, because there's no chance that it would ever pass in the Senate, because they don't have a majority in the Senate, so it clearly would like be shut down. And there's no chance it would even if it magically passed the Senate,
there's no way it would ever get past the House.
No way. And so, like, people were saying, like, what potential reason could he have for making like this bill? Because it's not going to get through, and it's going to give like fodder, or basically you're giving the Democrats a talking to rile up their own voters. So a lot of people are speculating, and that's so, that this sounds like
probably doing it on purpose so that it would
sabotage
his own party in the midterms.
Yeah,
because Lindsey Graham, unfortunately, is mostly a part of the Uniparty. He's never really... The only thing that I can really remember that Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell did well was when they were standing up to defend Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. Aside from that, they have moments, but in the grand scheme, Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, the former head of the Senate, these individuals they're not for the populists.
Yeah,
they are for the establishment, and they're always like, the Democrats are doing things which are not great. And it's like, okay, are you going to do anything? Well, we're just going to oppose the Democrats.
Squish.
No, you're squishing. Stand up for Republican values. Stand up for conservative values. Like, yes, I want there to be abortion restrictions, but why would you put it at a time when it can never pass? Why wouldn't you wait like 4 or 5 months until you win the midterms in both the Senate and the House, which is a good likelihood, and these things might pass.
Yeah, it's just basically it sounds like a sell. It's like you're trying to sink your own ship, which really this is the main problem with Republicans in the States, is you have too many people that are sabotaging your own side, which is a real problem. So anyways, take away the CBS story, man.
Yep. All right, CBS. Oh, and also in response to this, Mazie Hirono, the crazy senator from Hawaii, has responded to this article by saying, or to this bill, by saying, oh yes, we need a Democrat call to arms in response to this bill. It's like, well, that's not peaceful. That's not good.
Well, because they accused Lindsey Graham, when he said that people will be rioting in the street if Trump is arrested, and they're like, oh, he's calling for violence. And it's just like, we need to make a call to arms over this. It's like, oh, she's so brave, so bold. It's like it's double standard again. Again, it's the idea that only their actions, all of their actions are fully justified. None of our actions are justified. That's why these people can't be trusted. Right. But one person you can always trust is DeSantis.
Yep.
And I love this next story. It's so good.
So Ron DeSantis, Ron DeSantis flies dozens of illegal immigrants. I love how CBS has that in quotes. Dozens of illegal immigrants, quote, to Martha's Vineyard, escalating tactic against sanctuary destinations. Oh my gosh. There's a reason we're using more leftist sources today, and we'll go through that.
Yeah.
So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Wednesday flew 2 planes of immigrants to Martha's Vineyard, escalating a tactic by Republican governors to draw attention to what they consider to be the Biden administration's failed border policies. How would you not be, like, CBS? Come on, this is just as honest. Even you must admit that this is a failed border policy.
Nope, they can't do it.
Yeah, they can't do it. Flights to the upscale island enclave in Massachusetts were part of the effort to transport illegal immigrants to sanctuary destinations, said DeSantis' communications director. Go away.
Do you know who like the most prominent person that has a summer home in Martha's Vineyard?
Obama?
Yep, Barack Obama. The guy who said that climate change is going to kill us all, sea levels are going to rise, built a beach house on Martha's Vineyard. Pretty much like ground zero of any oceans rising kind of like nonsense. So, kind of like the ground zero for smug, arrogant, like leftists.
Yep. It's very true. But
so
on top of that, like it's been interesting watching the responses, because there's a whole bunch of leftists. Like there's Muriel Bowser, mayor of DC, and then you have the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, and they're like, we cannot accommodate the influx of migrants. And it's like, well, you've only received like 1,000 migrants.
Yeah.
There's already been like over almost 2 million, according to kind of unofficial and official records, that have passed. And you'd be totally happy with all of them staying in Texas. And you want to make them citizens, you want to give them rights because you want a voter base. And so, yes, we're sending these migrants, we're sending these illegal immigrants to sanctuary destinations because we want to say, you don't actually believe what you believe, and we're going to prove it publicly. Because they're like, oh, we can't handle these. We claim to be sanctuary cities, but that's only because we're really far away from the border, and we hope that no one would ever go up here, because that would just drain our resources. And it's like, well, we'll send them up. Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis, you're doing great. Keep it going. Make them close the border.
Yeah. So, like, one common feature that you'll find in any leftist, they're all talk, no bite.
Yeah.
They're basically, it's like they give away 1 million presents for Christmas, and then when all the children actually open up the presents, they'll find there's nothing inside. They're basically just empty. That's basically virtue signaling and how it works. It's all empty words. They mean nothing. They don't give a crap about these immigrants or the people there. The only reason why they will actually make some effort to try to like navigate this is because of optics. Today on this, what was that?
No, that was.
I was playing with something.
Yeah, I was like, oh, what's this notification? It was like instantly starts playing a video, and I'm like, ah.
Way to go, man.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take the Yahoo story. So this is from Yahoo News, which is actually originally from The Independent. Everything we know about the FBI seizure of Mike Lindell's phone at Hardy. This was a crazy story. I saw the video about Mike Lindell talking about it. So on Tuesday, the millionaire businessman and prominent 2020 election, of course, this.
Yeah,
So,
it's Yahoo.
Let me make that. It's Yahoo. Said he had his phone seized by the FBI in Minnesota while driving through a fast food pickup window, which the agency later confirmed. So, they basically like surrounded his vehicle. So basically cornered him.
Yep.
So here's everything you need to know. The search, federal agents surrounded Lindell and had to drive through a Hardee's. He was returning from a duck hunting trip in Iowa. They basically confirmed that they served him a search warrant. They also took his cell phone and questioned him for about 15 minutes. So the idea is that they showed up, they asked him all sorts of questions. He's like, what is this all about? What's going on? They're like, yeah, we have a warrant phone.
Yeah.
Initially, he didn't want to give it because his phone is pretty much everything he does, navigates, and runs is through his phone, so it's difficult for him to kind of give it up. But his lawyers kind of told him that he probably should. All right, so Mrs. Peters, a clerk in Messer County, was indicted with multiple state felony misdemeanor charges for a part in the scheme to download data, voting machines. Interesting. Also, he's wondering if he's actually implicated in an investigation with someone else. So the question is why are they after him? What's the point?
Well, yeah, I was reading through this article. Everything is in relating to her downloading data, or her scheme to download data from a voting machine during the election. And of course, she pleaded not guilty because what she really wanted was she wanted to find out what was going on, because you shouldn't be able to download data because they shouldn't be connected to the internet.
That's right.
And so the FBI, of course, asked her if he gave her any money. And he's like, well, I put efforts toward her legal defense. It says he has since said he was mistaken. But, yeah. He's basically been there to help with her legal fund and to talk about election issues. Which, it is absolutely maddening. And those who know, that are in the know, are just like, yep, we know that something fishy went on. We know that there was something that was untoward that happened in that election.
Yep.
But we can't say it publicly because then we'll get taken off social media. We'll get taken off issues.
And by the way, that's an artificial rule. The rule that you cannot criticize is completely artificial.
Oh, it's completely artificial, and it's completely one-sided. Because nowadays, of course, you'll have Kamala Harris and you'll have Hillary Clinton and you'll have Stacey Abrams that are like, I never questioned the outcome of the election. I never said that I won. It's like, well, yeah, you did. Yeah. You claimed it for years. And then now that you're trying to claim that it is a threat and it is a terroristic act to question elections, that's when you're changing your tune.
Yeah, and you have to remember that there's a very, very obvious escalation that's going on. So, obviously we've talked about this before, the idea that the Democrats and all the people who are allied with them, they want power, and they can't stand even the idea that they might lose anything, because in the election that the big upset took place in where was it, in Texas. There was that one district that was a Democrat stronghold that was taken by a Latina woman, and it was a big upset for the Republicans. There was a person there who actually said they cheated. How do you know they cheated? Because a Republican won. That's all he had. A Republican won, hence they must have cheated. And so that's election denial. But it's acceptable because it's from a leftist, and because leftists, everything that they do is excused. So, but the escalation right now going on is ramping up this you can't talk about that, you can't talk about all this censorship. But they're also going after figures like Mike Lindell. Why would they go after him? Because they want to have the chill factor of making everyone believe, oh my goodness, I can't work with Trump because they'll come after me. This is what they want to do. They want to poison the well so profoundly that even if Trump were able to go into office, people are joining him. Now, thankfully, this has had the opposite effect for a lot of people, like Alex Jones, who originally said he wanted to quit. He actually talked about it on Louder and Crowder. He originally wanted to quit. He was like, this is too much. But now, after seeing the insanity and all these things that people are doing, he's like, I can't quit. It's too important. This is a life or death thing now, and he believes that they're going to basically go after everyone and destroy everyone. And right now, this is, like Tucker Carlson said, this is political purging. They're trying to purge political enemies of the state. And so we're getting into some dangerous territory right now, which will only get worse unless somebody does something. So it's getting bad out there, bro. All right, man. Take us to the Louder with Crowder story.
Louder with Crowder. So police investigating after video of white kid brutally beaten in school bathroom goes viral. So, numerous problems leading to the decline of Western civilization. One of those problems is the inability to parents to raise their children with any semblance of morals. Secular leftist education doesn't help with that issue, so forgive me if I'm not surprised why videos like this one start to make their rounds. According to 12 News, the video depicts a group of boys in a restroom at Westbrook High School, in which one teen can be seen punching another boy, yes, after he gets his head rammed into the wall. So yeah, let's just...
Pretty brutal.
Yeah, I wonder if Biden's DOJ will look into bringing hate crime. Nope, definitely not. So yeah, be warned, this is violent.
Oh! Kicks him while he's down. So, one thing, like, I don't know if you noticed that. Normally, if you get smacked in like to something, what would be the first place you hold?
If you get smacked?
Well, let's say, for example, if you get kicked in the nuts, what's the first place you hold that you
Your
feel
nuts?
the pain? Your nuts. If you get kicked in the back, where do you put your hands? Where do you feel the pain?
Back?
The back. Now, he got smacked head first into the wall, but immediately, what was he holding? You didn't see it, did you? Go back, like right at the beginning.
His throat.
He grabs his neck. What does that tell you?
That he was probably choked before being thrown?
No, there's a possibility. If you could go right to the beginning of the video and play just the first 5 seconds. Immediately grabs his neck. See that? I'm thinking what happened because remember, he got head-butted, like he got thrown into the wall head first and immediately grabs his neck. I'm thinking he might have felt something in his neck. Because remember, if you get hit in the wall, your neck kind of contracts and all that. I'm actually wondering if he actually some like actual
spinal damage? Maybe.
I'm wondering because I thought it was odd that he held his neck first. So that's super dangerous.
Yeah.
And this kid's probably going to have some very severe injuries from that kind of attack. That kind of attack, if you do this publicly, if I do this to some guy in a public bathroom at the local McDonald's or whatever, I'm not only going to charge.
Like one of the interesting things is that this is not the first incident of this guy in the white shirt. It's not the first incident of him beating another student. He spent time in a juvenile facility and then he was let out to go back to school, and then he does it again. It's just like, okay, then put him back in the juvenile detention facility and like teach him in jail. This kind of behavior is absolutely unacceptable, and he shouldn't see the light of day for a long time. Like I would almost, it's like, I don't know how old this kid is. I would assume he's probably about 15 or 16. So I'd be like, yep, I'd be tempted to charge him as an adult. If this is his second offense and he's already been let go from a juvenile facility for attacking another student.
Yeah. I think there should be such a thing, because I know right. What do they do to kids like this? They suspend them or maybe expel them, but then they just move on to another school. I think for cases like this, violent physical assault, because this is not just even bullying. This is like a violent, severely injure somebody. I think that there should be such a thing as like a restraining order that pretty much forbids this child from going into any school, period. And I think that actually should be a thing, because they are now a danger to any child at any school. If they get suspended or expelled from one school, they're just going to go to another school and do the same thing to some other.
Well, it was like that incident with the Loudoun County schools.
Yeah.
It was like, raped a girl, gets sent to another school, rapes another girl. It's like, well, we didn't cover it up. We handled it. And it's like, covering it up and moving it on to another school is not handling it. You're literally allowing this child to perpetuate more violence and more criminality.
You know, the left loves to like point out the like, you know, like, oh, you priest would, like, you know, sexually assault a kid. They quietly transfer him to some other church and he would do it again. And now they're like, well, it's okay if we do it. It's okay if black kids, because black kids are victims. Look at that poor victim smashing that poor kid who's half his size into a wall head first. That poor victim. That white kid had it coming. He's got white privilege. It's gross. The kind of things that they're allowing to happen in these schools. It's very terrible. So let's move to the last story. So this is from Rebel News, and it says, why does Trudeau's disinformation czar plan to sue Rebel News? Again, remember, they're going after anybody who does not support their narrative, anyone who's an enemy of their team, they're going after them. So that's what it says. A bizarre report from Jean-Christophe Bouchier, subject to no academic peer review, said that anyone who promotes a specific mistrust of Canada's Liberal government, and especially of Prime Minister Trudeau, could be flagged as a pro-Russia agent. That language is so dangerous that it actually emulates the actual Soviet Union. It's crazy that they actually have this kind of language. On the last night on the Ezra Levant show, Ezra discussed a legal notice of intention to bring a lawsuit sent by lawyers for Trudeau's disinformation czar to Rebel News and Ezra personally. He's the guy Trudeau pays to accuse Trudeau's political enemy of spreading foreign disinformation. But remember, disinformation is the magic word that the Liberals use for lying. Basically, they accuse people of lying, but they can't say lying, so they say. Ezra commented in the paper Boucher co-wrote titled "Disinformation and Russia-Ukrainian War on Canadian Social Media." Boucher listed 5 primary narratives characterized as pro-Russian. Among them were portraying a general mistrust in institutions and elites, and promoting a specific mistrust of Canada's Liberal government, and especially of Prime Minister Trudeau. So, again, you have to remember, what are they doing? They're basically saying, this is a common tactic in talking. Oh, you're showing distrust. No mention about whether or not any of these institutions, doesn't matter how much they lie, cheat, how much they abuse their power, how much they use double standards, nothing. They can get away with bloody murder, and you have to trust them. Yep. That is not a logical or reasonable thing, and that is the kind of stuff we're going to talk about, in the final segment. But Stephen, do you have anything final to?
Oh no, we knew that this sort of thing was coming. The Trudeau government has been on a rampage of attacking those they view as political dissidents. Of course, they did it first with the trucker rally. They did it with those who are a part of the freedom rallies. The Trudeau government is willing to take almost any step to try and attack and to try and discredit and to try and harm those that go against their regime. And Rebel News is clearly an agent against the Liberal government, and that's part of why we respect them so much.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk about Rebel News is a great example. What's going on with them? It's a great example of what I'm going to call something. And we're going to talk about that in today's Shrew.
Yep. Okay. I should bring up Shrewd Check.
Sorry, I thought I had.
I don't think I even have Shrewd Check anymore. Wow. No, I don't.
You lost the Shrewd Check?
I don't have Shrewd Check anymore.
Okay.
Well, I don't have the intro. Well, I think what happened was the last time we did a Shrewd Check was months ago. And when we last did that Shrewd Check, there was an issue where I forgot to turn it off and it kept coming on. And then it just permanently disabled itself except for the sound. And so I turned it off, but then I forgot to re-enable it.
Okay. Well, let's do a clear cut here for the Shrew. Okay, so this is today's Shrew Check. So today's Shrew Check, we're going to cover something called myth of both sides. All right. So for anybody who's obviously been a big fan of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is iconic, a story. of basically good and evil. It covers all sorts of like themes from good and evil, self-sacrifice, perseverance in the face of impossible odds. All of these amazing stories. But one of the storylines that I really is a storyline of somebody called Grima Wormtongue. Now, Grima Wormtongue actually came out in the second, and he was a very interesting character. What happened was Saruman the White, if you remember the story, Saruman the White was originally an ally of all the sides of good, including of the kingdom of Rohan. But Saruman turned to the dark side, turned evil, and he employed the services of Grima Wormtongue to basically corrupt and basically to try to break down and destroy the kingdom of Rohan from the inside. And how he accomplished this is he would be the king's advisor, and his words were infused with magic that would basically turn the king into basically a slave. And as a result, he was able to completely and totally walk in and completely destroy everything in the kingdom. Now, if you want to go to the next picture here, Stephen. Now, Grima Wormtongue is interesting because he's a very well-spoken guy. It's interesting how J.R.R. Tolkien represents this character. He's represented as a very visually striking and unpleasant guy. He's got like greasy hair. His face is all deformed, and he's very obviously a bad guy. However, it's basically used as an analogy of what's what in our world, Grima Wormtongues are actually not. They don't look like him. They look polished. They look like very presentable people, but underneath they're very susceptible, evil men. And remember, the goal of Grima Wormtongue is to try to destroy the kingdom of Rohan from the. And one of the ways he does that is by something called demoralization. He tries to wear people down slowly and slowly. And one of the people he tries to wear down is, next slide, or next picture, is the character named Eowyn. Now, Eowyn, obviously, is a very strong, very noble woman, a lady of Rohan. And one of the things he does is he tries to wear her down very slowly until she's basically loses all hope and all strength. And he tries to basically use his. So there's a video in the next video that shows how he. Let me show that.
So cold, like a morning of pale spring, still clinging to winter's chill.
See how ugly this guy is.
Your words are poison.
So you can tell, what Grima Wormtongue's entire work, how he operates, tries to do this. He tries to, get people to give up and to basically lose hope and give in out of despair, thinking that there's no way to win, there's no way out of this terrible situation. And Eowyn is a great example of how a lot of people feel today. They feel basically demoralized. They feel like there's no hope. And stuff. That's what they want. Okay? But this next scene kind of shows people this is how people like Grima Wormtongue respond to people who are strong and who actually try to take the high road and actually try to stop what's happening. And this is
running free
go
across our lands. Unchecked, unchallenged, killing at will. Orcs bearing the white hand of Saruman.
It's busted.
Why do you lay these troubles on an already troubled mind? Can you not see? Your uncle is wearied by your malcontent, your warmongering.
Warmongering? How long is it since Saruman bought you? What was the promised price, Grima? When all the men are dead, you will take your share of the treasure?
You could probably stop there. So obviously, as you go on to the scene, what Grima Wormtongue does is he actually uses the power that he's gotten over the king to force, basically to exile Eomer, who's basically the only strong, bold man left. Now, if you follow this logic, you can see that there is a very obvious thread that J.R. Tolkien is weaving, and this thread I think follows very closely to what we're seeing today in our society. And the idea is that whenever I've talked to you and I, Stephen, have talked to people, and we say the liberal liars, they constantly lie, they can't help it, or that the Canadian American they lie, and then the usual response we get is, oh well, yeah, but it happens on both. Yeah, but the conservative media is just the same. They also lie, and everyone's biased. Everyone's the same. They try to make this idea, and people believe this, that both sides operate just as dishonestly. They just believe that everyone's dishonest. Everyone lies, and it's really all the same. No one's worse than the other. There's this belief that a lot of people have, particularly on the left, that there's this equality of dishonesty. And so, well, it's biased, so you can know. Here's the problem. The problem is that is not actually what's really happening or what's really at stake. The people on the left, and this is a pattern that we've observed, and we're going to demonstrate as we go forward, they are liars, and they know it. They not only do they lie on purpose, and also when they're caught lying, they don't take any responsibility. They never, and they just go back and do it again. And here's the main thread I want you to remember, that this is why you can't trust what they say at all, just like Grima Wormtongue. Because if somebody lies to you and you catch them lying, if they apologize to you and say, like, I'm really, I'll do better, you can trust that person again. You can start building that. Because that person is showing integrity, and that person is showing a willingness to change. That's the person you can trust. A person who lies to you and who gets caught red-handed lying and knows they're lying, and who never apologizes, and who of changing that up, you cannot trust this person. And that is the difference between the left and the conservative media. Now, the conservative media makes mistakes, but when they do, they cast themselves, they'll change it, and they'll correct it. And they'll even admit it. But you don't see this in leftist media. They are dishonest, and they know it, and they're proud of it. And this is what we're going to talk about today. Because people who believe that the left and the right are operating the same, it's exactly like Grima Wormtongue and Gandalf the Grey. Gandalf the Grey, a lot of people were suspicious. Who is this guy? Is he trustworthy? But he's actually a good person, right? So here, we're going to start by talking about the story from the Daily Mail. This is Karine Jean-Pierre. Now, this happened this week. What happened was it 2 weeks ago?
September 1st.
I wonder if this is the official story I had. Anyways, okay. So this is an example of how the... So Karine Jean-Pierre blames Trump for not open drop in learning, claims ex-president's mismanagement, and not Democrats or unions to blame for the decline in progress for millions of children. All right. So Karine Jean-Pierre went in front of the press, and by the way, she is the worst, press secretary. People have said that sucks at her job, but she went out in front of the press and lied through her teeth, and she said, here's the quote right above the picture: in less than 6 months, our schools went from 46% to almost all of them. She basically tried to suggest in this little interview that, Democrats are the ones that got kids out of, back to school. We're the ones. And that was a blatant lie. Anyone who knew exactly what happened during the pandemic knows Democrats fought tooth and nail to try to force schools closed. They resisted any attempt to try to open up schools. They resisted all attempts to try to look at the science, and they said no. schools had to be closed, and they were brutal. Right, Steve? You remember that, Steve? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the entire premise here is that Karine Jean-Pierre is a figurehead in the White House, and the White House over the last year has been involved in so much dishonest lying that it's almost impossible to keep track of it. These are not honest people, and these are not people who are acting in a way that you can trust. These are people like Greta Wormtongue who are trying to destroy the country from within. They're trying to weaken all these institutions, trying to shut people up. Anyone who tries to speak, it's like, hey, Omer, you get off you go into exile, so you can't kick up any fuss. And you're trying to demoralize the public, like they're doing, and scare them, like he tried to do with Aowen, right? So what happens is this is by no means. Karine Jean-Pierre is just an example of a blatant tendency that is now becoming it's accelerating. It's becoming much more obvious, much more extreme in the current days. And there is in the next video here's a couple examples we're going to show of. No, don't start with that one. Start with the
transitory.
That's the one. Yes. So here's a couple of videos that are going to show you some of the ways that these people are blatant liars and they know it. So this one is about inflation. So this is some of the told over.
Doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
Most economic analysts believe that it will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great,
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
And the data shows that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. There's nobody suggesting there's unchecked inflation on the way. It's highly unlikely that it's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems.
What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Well, the number one thing that the president can do is help get COVID under control. That we know is the root cause of inflation.
President Biden this afternoon saying he thinks we're at the peak of the crisis right now and that lower prices are on the way.
The inflation has everything to do with the supply chain. Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin. I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home.
If you want to get rid of inflation, the only way to do it is to undo a lot of the Trump tax cuts.
I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything.
People are suffering. Oh, so sad. So, did you notice some things there, Steven?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're just a bucket of conversation tonight on this one.
I'm just
just observing. Okay. So what you saw there. So I'll take the reins here. So what you saw there is you saw the Democrats over the course of a year constantly gaslighting Americans, telling them, "Oh, you know what? You're crazy. Inflation's not coming. Don't worry, inflation's not. Oh, actually, inflation's here, but it's not. It's not our fault. It's COVID's the response. Oh no, actually, it's Putin. Putin's the fault of the inflation. Oh, you know what? It's the Trump tax. Like they're liars, and they know they're liars, and they have no shame." And they won't even admit that they were wrong. Whenever they're asked, do you regret? Like I think at one press conference, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked, like, do you, or like, I think it was a senator. She was asked, do you regret, like, knowing what we know now? Do you regret what you did because you like this caused some real damage? And she was like, well, and her whole answer They never admit they're wrong, and they never regret anything that they do to people, which is pretty horrible. they did this with inflation. So this next video is they did this with the border. Remember, like they tried to talk about how you got it, yeah. They try to talk about how they try to basically gaslight Americans, tell them oh, you know what, Trump is making there's no crisis at the border, there's no crisis, no crisis. They ran this story like crazy into the ground, and this is let's just show first 30 seconds of this.
Of what he's calling a crisis. I have never seen a crisis since maybe when you were in New Orleans talking about Katrina. That was as openly understood and ignored.
Tonight, the president tries to sell a crisis that the facts tell us does not exist. This entire situation, which many have argued is a bona fide crisis at our southern border.
The big scam of the whole address was that there's a crisis. There's not a crisis. Those were the powerful words written to describe the humanitarian crisis at the border.
She's already been out lying about a crisis on the southern border. He's doing a much worse job than Barack Obama, and he's created this crisis.
And the word crisis is what this is all about for Team Trump. He's got to prove that there is one.
Move aside from the moment of the blame on why we are suddenly having this crisis right now.
Manufacturing.
So if you notice, the same people that said there's no crisis would turn around
and it's politically convenient. They'll say it's a crisis.
They'll say it's a crisis. It's like they're obviously lying. These people are lying to you, and they don't care. These are not trustworthy people, in any way. And of course, we all know that they did this to the greatest degree with the Hunter Biden story, and they actually went to great lengths to try to gaslight the American public and tell them, this is from the Gateway Pundit. They try to gaslight the American public and try to prove to them, or try to tell them, no, this is all Russian misinformation. Again, remember that whole talking point that they came up with, Russian misinformation. This is the Grima worm tongue, an approach they're taking, and they are shameless in how they do it. So, Stephen, can you go to the Gateway Pundit article? So, again, it's amazing how many people are putting this together. I actually. But again, this is the mainstream media in the United States lying to their teeth, telling you that the whole Hunter Biden, laptop was Russian misinformation. They have the audacity to accuse other people of this information.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Okay.
You got it, Stephen.
And tonight, the Trump campaign is accusing Twitter and Facebook of censorship after the social media companies blocked the spread of an unverified story about former Vice President Joe Biden's son and a laptop allegedly full of his old emails. It's a story raising concerns about whether it's real or just designed to sow confusion in the final weeks of the election.
Experts say it has all the hallmarks of information laundering.
This looks like your classic disinformation campaign.
Eric O'Neill is a former FBI operative.
Steal the information with a cyber attack, get the emails from Hunter Biden's account, and then put them on these laptops that are left at a repair store. And that's how the information is now laundered into the public.
Who do you think is behind this?
Well, the Russians would be my number one guess.
Social media outlets were quick to limit the spread of the story. Twitter briefly suspending the accounts of the Trump campaign and White House press secretary after they tried to share it.
Twitter and Facebook have limited the distribution of that Hunter Biden story. And last night, Twitter appeared to suspend the Twitter account of White House press secretary Kayleigh McEnany when she tried to share that story.
Damn. Stop there. So, what happened with the Hunter Biden story? Everything that they said in that little segment, of course, this is I encourage you to go watch it yourself. Everything that they said is verifiably false.
Mm-hmm.
When they said that experts have concluded that this is all Russian, that was a lie. They actually got an entire group of people, so-called experts, to all come out at the same time and say oh, this is clearly a lie. That's been disproven. Shown to be a complete and total farce. Why did they do it? Because they wanted to kill any chance of a scandal that would steal the possibility of Joe Biden winning the election. We already know, based on polling that was done all across the United States after the election, that 10% of people would have changed their vote if they knew about the Hunter Biden scandal. and that would have like had major impact on the election outcome. So you saw this with politicians lying through their teeth about. You saw this to the media lying through their teeth about the border crisis and lying through their teeth about the Hunter Biden. Did any of these people, to your knowledge, any of these politicians or any of these news agencies or any, did any of them actually come out and state a public apology for this and we're going to try to do better? To your knowledge?
No.
No. They never do. Because they don't care about truth. They don't care about like lying. They're basically like, it's all the end. This article is from December, but it basically like gives of how long this has been going, bad this has been going on. So this is from Post Millennial. This is from December 2021, and it talks about like how this the initial story is about Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett is a hoax, completely made up. It was proven in court that the guy lied, and that this entire thing was a sham. A person with reasonable, concept would know. But like major people like John Legend, Shonda Rhimes, and of course Ellen DeGeneres, they all came out and they basically like spread complete lies about how Jussie Smollett is a victim of like Trump, evil Trump, MAGA, terrible people. And when it was proven that it was a complete lie, none of them, not a single one of them, ever took it back. Not a single one apologized. Not a single one to basically answer for what they said. They basically it was just memory. All right. Now, obviously, like we're trying, like in this article, they talk about a lot of the complete lies that have been said over the years. Everything. Kyle Rittenhouse, the entire Kyle Rittenhouse thing was a complete and total farce. No apologies. They had to be sued in order to like admit it. The Covington Catholic kids, that was a complete and total lie of the no apologies, no explanations, nothing. Nobody was ever held to account. Nobody apologized. These are all people who have no problem lying. With the Covington Catholic kids, there were major people like Amy Curtis, Chris Evans, John Cusack. They basically like attacked them, and they never got any flack from. Kathy Griffin called for them to be doxxed. No repercussions for Kathy Griffin, of any kind. And some people like went even further and they completely and totally went on. This is a pattern. You have to remember, George Floyd. They completely lied about the entire situation. They stoked racial tensions in order to create the entire things. So you can see the pattern. There's liars in the media. There's liars in politics, and there's liars in popular culture. And all of them are willing and happy to lie. And they don't care about whether or not what they're saying is true. Even when they're caught, they don't admit it. They are all, we are seeing an epidemic of worm tongues everywhere. These are not people that you can trust because not a single one of them can. And these are people that, whether or not they're working independently, they're all basically part of this big giant movement, just like in Lord of the Rings and Rohan, to completely and totally destroy. This is what they're doing. Whether they're actively, knowingly part of the plan, or they're doing it because they're part of the doesn't matter. They're all part of the same goal. And if you think this is happening in perhaps an even bigger way here in Canada. And the next story will show us that. So this is from, go to the LifeSite News article. So this is from LifeSite News. We've covered this one before, but just a reminder. What happened at the beginning of this year, one of the biggest events in Canada, was the trucker convoy. And the trucker convoy was filled with a ton of completely false accusations and total lies by the mainstream media and by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and all of the in Parliament. Stephen, with us now, obviously, I recommend you guys go and read this article. Fake stories. Stephen, let's just go with What do you remember are some of the biggest lies you remember that happened during the trucker convoy here in Canada?
Well,
let's go through some of them.
Mainly about, first off, lies about the size.
The size of it, they said way too.
They claimed that it
smaller
was.
than it was.
Yeah, they claimed that it was only hundreds.
Yep. I can give you one. The arsonists. 2 people went into a building, tried to put it on fire, proven that was not at all connected to the convoy. What else you got?
Homeless shelter.
Homeless shelter that they tried to steal food. That was proven. I'd say the desecration of characterized that as worse than it actually was.
Well, considering, what was it? They draped a Canadian flag over it. They're like, this is a desecration.
Well, there's 2 of them. There was the War Memorial. Somebody was dancing on top of that, just not knowing. And the other one was Terry Fox, but showing that they didn't actually damage the statue. They just basically put something over top that's easily. Yeah. They talked about the Nazi flags and the Confederate flags that were there. And Trudeau himself accused a Jewish member that, she's clearly a Nazi sympathizer because she doesn't immediately condemn all the people, all the protesters, like wholesale. So she's clearly a Nazi sympathizer.
Yeah.
And by the way, he never apologized for that because he's a dishonest hack and he doesn't care about the truth. What else do you remember?
I'll
give you one. They basically said that the truck people at the protest, they had weapons on them.
Yep.
And that was proven to the point where they actually asked the police chief, they're like, was anybody found with weapons? And he had to admit on the record, he's like, no, actually nobody was found with weapons. So the media was caught lying. Politicians were caught lying. And there's more. There's a huge compilation out there of people actually showing all the times that they accused the truckers of trying to set a fire. There's a huge compilation of that. Again, these people are not honest people. Go to the let's go to really quick, and we'll finish off with this one.
Which one?
The one on I think it's the.
You're cutting out.
The very final story, the one from Facebook.
Okay.
And then we'll finish with the huge tube at the end. So this is again, this might be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Trudeau. This is, who is this, Stephen?
Chrystia Freeland.
Chrystia Freeland, and look what she did.
The Conservatives would have provided this support to individuals and to businesses that we did.
Aaron O'Toole says federal support programs still aren't doing enough.
Do you think they would have bought the vaccines that we did?
That's not a lie.
No. I don't think so. And so it really, really matters. And it matters for the future. We put out, I think we put this out already. If not, you guys are going to get the scoop on the rest of the country. But we tweeted out some video of Aaron O'Toole during the Conservative leadership campaign where he talks about privatizing Medicare.
That was a big lie. It was a huge lie. That was
Can you believe that?
Totally changed. Do you remember that, Stephen?
Nope.
So what happened was there was a video of an interview that Aaron O'Toole made with somebody. And they cut some of what he said out. They deceptively manipulated the. He wanted to completely get rid of, what do you call it, universal health care, and he wanted to replace it with private. It was demonstrated that was a complete lie, and the Liberal Party was responsible for that deceptively edited clip, and actually called out to the mat, not only by Twitter but by other people. That was a big scandal during the election because they were caught not only spreading gossip, but they themselves created gossip that was actually shown to be completely a lie. So this is Chrystia Freeland, a high-ranking, and she knowingly is making up lies and stories about that, and she's spreading them freely across, the Canadian. These are people who don't care about the truth and will lie through their teeth with no problems. And let's finish off with the last one. Second last, Stephen. That's the one. This was put out by the Conservative Party during the last election, and it shows the patterns again. Watch the pattern.
Nope.
Can you reload that page?
Trying to.
I think it's because if you let it sit too long.
You can't be lying to Canadians. Neither the current nor the previous Attorney General was ever directed by me or by anyone in my office.
I experienced a consistent and sustained effort by many people within the government to seek to politically interfere in the exercise of prosecutorial discretion in my role as the Attorney General of Canada.
Be straight with Canadians.
I am looking straight at Canadians and being honest the way I always have. We will balance that budget in 2019.
The deficit this year, including a $3 billion rainy day fund, is $19.8 billion.
You can't be inventing things.
The 2015 election will be the last federal election using first past the post.
I turned my back on that promise.
Yep.
Can't be lying to Canadians.
I've always considered the Aga Khan a close family friend.
Their relationship cannot be described as one of friends.
Twist the truth.
No veteran will be forced to fight their own government for the support and compensation that they have earned. Why are we still fighting against certain veterans groups in court? Because they're asking for more than we are able to give right now.
You can't be inventing things. Rough. You can't be lying to Canadians. It's not something we're going to put up with.
So, this is just one of like many videos that kind of go into the same thing. You have to remember, if you look at each thing individually, you might think like, oh, maybe, maybe he got that little fact wrong or data wrong. But you have to remember, Justin Trudeau. There's a very prominent video out there where he was being grilled by Pierre Poilievre about the WE scandal, and Pierre Poilievre was asking him direct questions, very simple questions. I need to know this. I need to know this. Justin Trudeau was intentionally obfuscating, and this is a pattern that he has. He constantly tried to avoid answering the question honestly, using rhetorical tricks and speak in order to avoid the question. Chrystia Freeland was also asked a very, very obvious question in a hearing, and she was so arrogantly refusing to answer the question and using all sorts of manipulative, ways to try to, turn it back and try to, be clever. These are not the actions of honest people. So this is why I bring it all back. There's a myth that people have that both sides are equally guilty. Both sides are the same, that they're all responsible, and that is just not true. In the States, you notice that there's conservative media news sites that are so incredibly committed to getting the facts right, that very seldom do they actually make mistakes in their stories. Daily Wire is amazing. They are so adamant about making sure that they never get any, that the people have a hard time finding them getting information wrong, and if they do, they are very quick to correct it and to change it. You look at conservative shows like Louder Crowder. They constantly, if they get something wrong, they will correct it and they will always apologize for it. Tim Pool, Tim Cash, they try to do it all the time. Here in Canada, you have the National Telegraph, you have True North Center, you have the Counter Signal. These are very intentional journalistic organizations that have an actual stake in getting the information right. And then you have political figures like Ron DeSantis, like Pierre Poilievre. These are people that are very intentional about getting the facts right, about being truthful, and about admitting when they make a mistake. Are they political? Do they have to be careful about what they say? But they are very adamant about giving you facts, figures, and being honest with you. And these are people you can trust. there's no both sides are the same stuff here, and I'm telling you this honestly. If there was, I would try to be very honest about it. Both sides get like are wrong. There's a difference, like the said. There's a term that they always use. There's misinformation. Misinformation is when you make an accident, you mistakenly share something. Disinformation is where you intentionally share something that you know is false. Okay? The right might sometimes be guilty of misinformation. Sometimes they share things they don't know that they were right or wrong, but they for the most part try to be honest. The left doesn't do that. They're all about disinformation. They're all about they will share a story, share a talking point, even though they know it's a blatant lie. Just like Karine
Jean-Pierre.
Karine Jean-Pierre, she has a weird name. She blatantly lied to the American because she knows she's never going to be held accountable. These are not people that you can trust, and nor should you, because they're pathological liars, and you should really stop trusting people who know they're lying to you, and they continue to do it with complete abandon. This is the idea, because ultimately behind everything, they are just like Green Worm. They're not on your side, and they're not trying to help you. They're lying to you so they can use you to get their goals. You're just you're just in their path. And I know that in Green Wormtongue, in the books and in the movies, obviously he's not an appealing looking guy, but that is an allegory of Tolkien was making obvious what is not obvious stuff. You look at Justin Trudeau, you see him with his clean cut hair, like, very fancy way of talking, but he's a snake. And he's got like a tongue, a forked tongue underneath those like crooked teeth. And same with a lot of these people, and in entertainment, you have to start being discerning and start choosing who you trust and who you listen to, because if you don't, you're going to be taken away and swept up by the liars and deceivers everywhere. And that's it.
Okay. That is where we're going to end today's show, today's broadcast. If you're following us on our video platforms, such as YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and YouTube, then, of course, like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you're following us on our text platforms, such as Facebook, Twitter, Gitter, and Parler, then echo, follow, retweet, everything involved with all those platforms. Yeah. Today was not a very involved day for me, because I'm in a haze and in a fog.
Make sure you send Steven some love, Poor guy.
I'm like barely hanging on here.
No, he's a good guy.
Okay.
We love you, Steven.
Thank you. Okay. So, with that being said, Danny, sign us out.
Well, we are the Shrewd Dudes, and to remind you, why be rude when you can instead be shrewd? Thank you for watching the show. Enjoyed it. Feel free to send us any questions or comments. Do better. And you know what? We just love doing this. We love. Me and Steven are both researchers. We're both big on apologetics. We're both big on using reason, logic, and so yeah. We hope that you find this stuff helpful. We hope that you guys become better at everything that you do as well, because you know what? We can win this culture war, and you just gotta
you just have to
better
stand up. Well, be better
informed
and actually have the courage to stand for what you believe in.
That's right. Amen.
Because unfortunately, there are many, many people who know what is right, but do not have the courage to act on it. So,
yeah.
Knowing is half the battle, but the rest is doing.
Well, it's like this week, just for the last little point on that. This week, obviously, I had from a couple of weeks ago, I had a whole comment thread about the Pride Parade, and somebody responded, and I actually long response to that person. I don't know if you saw, Stephen.
I did.
This guy still has not.
Oh no.
Deleted me. He did not actually follow through.
Oh, I didn't see that he didn't delete you. I thought he just ignored your... Well, I knew that he ignored your comment.
Yeah, he never responded, but he never deleted. Maybe that was a win in a way. But the thing that I was encouraged by is that my response was, I guess, inspiring to various people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want. I want to show people how to, so that they can be, they can know, like, A, it can be done, and B, they can learn how to do it. It takes practice. You gotta you just gotta go at it, but eventually you'll get there.
Yep.
And that's our hope in the show, is to make it possible. Not only do we want to present you with the information but we also want to demonstrate through our conversation and through our back and how to talk about these things in an intelligent and responsible way. And that's part of the whole idea of how to show information and how to talk information in an intelligent and a shrewd way. So we're hoping that you find it helpful. So that's great. But yeah, Stephen, I appreciate you, man. That's good work.
Okay. All right. So we will see everybody on Tuesday for another Tuesday News Day. Until then, have a fantastic weekend. Have a great couple nights. And as always, God bless.